You ready?
Yep.
You ready, Joseph?
We're all good to go.
Okay, me too.
All right,
Yay,
let's do it.
high five.
Good evening. Welcome to the beautiful Kit Recital Hall in Northern Arizona University for what I am sure will be a most memorable evening as part of the first inaugural lecture of the President's Speaker Series, the title of which is Building Energy Democracy to Confront Colonialism and Climate Change. It will be a lecture delivered by a good friend and world-renowned environmentalist and scientist, Dr. Arturo Massol-Deyá. My name is Jose Luis Cruz Rivera, and I have the privilege of serving as the 17th presidency of Northern Arizona University. Last week, Rima and I were privileged to attend the President's Diversity and Equity Award ceremony. In my opening remarks, I shared with those in attendance that I have been in a very introspective mood of late, anticipating my installation as the 17th president of this noble institution and reflecting on the improbable journey that brought me here. Weathering profound sadness, witnessing how, once again, the forces of colonialism and profiteering have conspired against the ability of the people of Puerto Rico to face the wrath of what are in essence unnatural disasters. And wrestling with the anxiety that comes with being of a certain age, launching young adults into the world, and knowing that their health and fortune are subject to the rules, norms, and realities of a democracy that we have yet to perfect. But today, as we launch the President's Speaker Series, I am in an expansive mood, because your presence here in the magnificent Kid Music Hall signals your interest in and commitment to engaging with the critical issues of the day, not only as teachers, learners, and scholars, but also as advocates and activists. Because the topic that will be discussed today is one of global relevance, even if it is playing out within the confines of the small yet mighty island of Puerto Rico. Because our speaker today, through his engaged scholarship and determined dedication, is not only showing the people of Puerto Rico that an alternative empowered future is within reach, if only through the coherence of their actions, but modeling for others across the globe how knowledge, dedication, and solidarity can bring about better days. And having spent formative years in Adjuntas, Puerto Rico, where the world-renowned Casa Pueblo community project was launched nearly 4 decades ago and never extinguished since, in a home where the name of our speaker's parents were routinely heard around the kitchen table, I am in an expansive mood as I formally introduce our presidential speaker today, Dr. Arturo Massol-Deyá. Dr. Massol-Deyá is from the mountainous area of Puerto Rico in the municipality where his parents founded Casa Pueblo, a community-based group with 38 years of services in natural resources conservation, education, and sustainable development. Now the executive director, Massol-Deyá has chaired its board of directors since 2007, which is responsible for protecting the central region and its critical watersheds from an open pit mining proposal and a massive gas pipeline. Instead, new forest units, El Bosque del Pueblo and Bosque La Olimpia, were designated and have been managed by the community initiative, thus changing the island's forestry policy and catalyzing an increase of protected areas from a mere 3.7% to a current 8% of its surface. After Hurricane Maria devastated Puerto Rico in September 2017, Massol-Deyá and Casa Pueblo led a community aid response that is working to change the energy landscape of a country dependent on fossil fuels to one based on renewable energy sources. Massol-Deyá is a graduate of the public school system in Puerto Rico as well as the University of Puerto Rico. He obtained his doctoral degree from Michigan State University and is a faculty member at the University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez, a university that both Rima and I cherish as our alma mater. Please help me welcome to this stage Dr. Arturo Massol-Deyá.
That's also So I come from Casa Pueblo, which is located in the central part of Puerto Rico. It is a community-based organization, and Casa Pueblo and Puerto Rico are located in the Caribbean. We are an island nation, a hotspot for biodiversity. If you think about our island as being an island nation, I have to let you know that we belong to the U.S., but we are not part of the U.S. We are a U.S. territory. In 1898, the U.S. Navy took over Puerto Rico out of the hands of from Spain. So from being a colonial territory of Spain, we became a U.S. territory. And that political reality still stands. But as you see, I have my own language, which is Spanish. We have our own culture. We have our own territory that we do relate. But we do share at the global level a same threat. And that threat is related to climate change due to greenhouse gases emissions and global warming. That's the challenge that we're facing not only in Puerto Rico, the Caribbean, but you are also confronting the same challenges up here in this region. Usually we relate climate change in the Caribbean to hurricane formations, and we think about the sizes of the storms, which are huge. The strength of those hurricanes are stronger every time. But the consequences of global warming in the Caribbean is much more than just hurricanes. The Caribbean is a hurricane corridor. But what we're also confronting is drought. We're confronting bleaching of coral reef and the consequences in marine productivity. We're thinking about heat stress, the consequences on agriculture, productivity, infectious diseases, emergent diseases that are related to the Caribbean as well. So when you think about the consequences at the global scale, you can think that the Caribbean, even though it's not the main responsible region to impact climate change, the consequences are much higher than in other locations, like in the northern part of the planet. Yet, if you look around in Europe, heat wave, fires everywhere. Not only in Europe, but also in California. You're very familiar of what is happening, and you don't have to go to California. You just have to look outdoors and see what global warming is doing by reducing humidity in the soil and having more fuel for fires to burn important forests and important ecosystems. The consequences in water security, you can take a look at what is happening in Mexico, but it's also happening next door. So when we think about global warming, climate change, the consequences of having water insecurity and how that water is related to power generation and how that energy is being used for different purposes in society, then we have to realize that something has to be done collectively to address this issue. It is an unsustainable present. And I don't have to stress this point. I think you're more aware than myself that we have a challenge. And the challenge is how we are going to transform this reality to prevent this pathway for collapse. So I have a few questions. I have raised a few questions. Can we challenge this problem and propose alternative, real ones that can change this reality? Are we going to delegate those responsibilities for top-down decisions, or are we going to engage from the bottom up to transform and achieve new alternatives that can be more compatible with our reality? Are we going to keep the same centralized system where people are basically customers and is unidirectional, very dictatorial, the power relationship in society, or are we going to promote energy democracy? Are we going to engage actively in the energy agenda for our country? So if you think that energy is a capacity, and this is the definition that I'm going to use, energy as a capacity to do work, energy as the capacity to do work, to light up this space, to control the climate, for the audio, different manifestations of different duties that we have to achieve. Energy as the capacity to do work, it means that the economy of the US before was slavery driven, and now is fossil fuel driven. And that was a problem before with the slavery, and it is a problem right now with this fossil fuel dominated power generating economy, fossil fuel economy. For Puerto Rico, is colonial. It is extractive. It's not only the extraction of fossil fuels, it's extraction of the productive activities of the people. Think about how much bread the baker has to produce before he enjoys a single cent of his productive activity. Think about how much money had been leached out of Puerto Rico, had been washed out from Puerto Rico from our productive activities just to pay for coal, petroleum, and natural gas. In 10 years, it was up to $22,000 million of the productive activities of Puerto Rico being extracted and then taken away by others. And as we're doing that, we're complicating more the environmental reality, not of Puerto Rico, of the planet. So going back to Casa Pueblo is a community-based organization, and a long time ago we decided that we needed to confront that fossil fuel centralized power economy, and instead we proposed in 1999 that we needed to move away from fossil fuels. We installed the first solar facility in Casa Pueblo. It was very humble, very expensive. Technology wasn't there. For some economists, they might say that it was not cost effective, but for us, had been the greatest investment at the community level. We have upgraded the system throughout the years. We have experience. We have done cultural adjustments. And now Casa Pueblo can produce much more energy than what we're using. And this is what we're promoting, to break the cycle of dependency by producing energy at the point of consumption where energy is used. And because we are doing that, we're not at risk of anything that happens with the centralized power plants and transmission and distribution lines. So Casa Pueblo is about breaking the cycle of dependency, not only energy-wise, economically speaking as well. So we are economically self-sufficient because we have been producing coffee for a long time. And as we sell coffee, we generate income that we use for community development. So that's Café Madre Isla, our mother island, as we refer as Puerto Ricanos. We have a radio station, Radio Casa Pueblo, the voice of the forest, the water, and the people. We do have a school of music, so we engage in the art. That's Luis Fonsi. I know you're fans of Bad Bunny, but before I'm sure you heard the Pasito. So he's supporting our school of music. We have a choir as well. So collective engagement of the community through the art for the local development. And the arts are very embedded in what we're doing. So murals, art workshops, and are part of the initiative that we have been promoting in our community. As we're managing two different forests, Bosque del Pueblo and Bosque La Olimpia, we have decided to add another ecological service to the forest. They do produce oxygen, carbon sequestration. They are the location for biodiversity, but now it's for educational purposes. If we want to reach sustainable development in our community, we better learn how the forest and all of its diversity sustain itself without any external input, just by themselves. So the school is a place where kids will go and draw lessons on how water impact how the water, the surface of the watershed impacts the land uses. That was what I was looking for. Remember, English is my second language. But how the landscape impacts water behavior, and they do experiment. And as they do that, they can value the role of the forest as an sponge that will retain part of the water, and it's important for water security because it provides a minimum flow to keep the river going. But Casa Pueblo was founded by my parents, Alexis Massol at Massol-Deyá. And that fight initiated in 1980 when the government wanted to do open street mining in the central part of the island. Due to the geographical reality of the island, the importance of biodiversity and for water security, for the sake of growing coffee and sustaining community development, mining was incompatible with that reality. So we decided to oppose to the mining at that time. We went everywhere telling people in our community how bad open street mining was going to be for the environment and for our community. And you know what? To our first protest, only one person showed up. Yeah, one person. And you might laugh, but you can ask, who's not there? And with that person, instead of leaving and letting things happen, we decided and we realized that science, that knowledge, that just knowing that mining was going to be bad for the environment, as we know that fossil fuel is bad for the global climate. With that knowledge, it's not enough to achieve any change. So we decided at that point that knowledge is important, and knowledge, traditional knowledge, scientific knowledge, different means to get knowledge for the community need to be integrated with culture and community. And that's the social equation that we have been using ever since. That's why we have a choir. That's why we have a school of music right now, because culture is very important as a way to communicate to the people. It's the common language of the people in our community. It's a way to reach out, to build community, and then have the message go through. So now it's more participatory, more people are getting engaged, and it took us a long time, but in 1992 we had a common statement. It was a press release, it was a press conference from the sky. There was no drones at that time, so the only media that went to the press release was people that had a helicopter, and they collected this image, just a single word, the community saying, no mines. We have decided we don't want open street mining, we want a different future. And I have learned that here in this university, you are very good in integrating science, culture, and community for different reasons. But it took 15 years, but we were able to change public policy in Puerto Rico and stop mining from happening. And this is the same central main square of Adjuntas with 10,000 people celebrating that they do understood the problem, that they engage into protecting the land, and that they were celebrating that mining was stopped. Eventually, we had to confront another struggle when the government of Puerto Rico wanted to do a natural gas pipeline. It was a corrupted proposal. It was building a natural gas monopoly for the energy production in Puerto Rico. It was going to go through the mountains of Puerto Rico. The island is 100 miles long, and the pipeline was going to be 93 miles long. I mean, it was like taking gas to one point and going all the way through the mountains, compromising endangered species, different watersheds, and then reaching the northern part of the island to produce 20% of the energy that Puerto Rico needs. I mean, it was incredible the way they were proposing this. We use science, culture, and community, but instead of having one person showing up, we have 30,000 people. And it took us a few different efforts, including going to DC in solidarity with the Native American communities that were protesting the construction of Keystone XL. And at that point, well, we got arrested as part of that. But it was important to confront the challenge of that proposal and letting people know that when you have an unsustainable proposal, you have the right to protest, to raise awareness, and if you have to go to jail and do civil disobedience, you have to do it. At least that's the way we think about it. But we don't want to be compromising our energy for protesting. We have to protest and stop significant unsustainable proposals from moving forward, but we have to propose alternative. And this is what we have been doing all along. We stop the mining, we propose a forest. We told the government we want to protect the land. The water security is more important than just getting some copper from those deposits. But we told the government not only that we want a forest, it's not only proposing, because from universities we are very good of having good ideas, good proposals, and telling other people how to do it, how to solve the problems. So we told the government we want to manage the land. And we became the first community group managing state land in Puerto Rico, and we have been doing that since 1996. After that, we proposed Bosque del Pueblo. After that, we proposed biological corridor, changing public policy for forest conservation in Puerto Rico. We built later on the school inside the forest, and this is what we have been doing all along. So going back to Casa Pueblo, and our reality, let's take you to 5 years ago when Hurricane Maria was going through Puerto Rico. Let's go back to the energy agenda and the consequences of storms like Hurricane Maria. And this is a summary of how the Puerto Rico Power Authority behaved, or the summary of their performance after the hurricane. So we had a black power outage for the whole island that lasted weeks, months, up to a year or two in some rural communities in Puerto Rico. And because of the lack of power, now you confronted other realities. People making lines to get fuel for power generators. You had noise, you have emissions. Many people left the island. You had people, the hospital, healthcare was compromised because of the lack of power. And yet, the hurricane is there. But the actual crisis is the aftermath of mismanaging basic services that are needed to bounce back and regain some normality within the crisis. And in the case of Puerto Rico, it translated, not that we we didn't have power for our air conditioning unit or to watch TV. It wasn't about that. It was that people die in excess amounts, up to 3,000-4,000 excess deaths related to Hurricane Maria. Not because of the storm itself, but because of the corrupted mismanagement of the crisis by the local government. And not the local government, I have to add the federal government, FEMA, and Donald Trump, and all the people that got involved. This is last week, Hurricane Fiona passing by Puerto Rico. That storm is long gone. But again, you can see what happened. We got not the winds so much, but we got a lot of rain, up to 30 inches of rain for 48, 60 hours. That storm was impacting Puerto Rico at that time. And again, this is PREPA's performance, a total blackout, again. And then you have to ask why a complete power blackout in Puerto Rico when the same storm that became a hurricane in front of Puerto Rico and days later impacted Dominican Republic. In Dominican Republic, only 17% of the population lost power at home. So far, on Sunday, the government did recognize at least 16 deaths, one directly related to the storm and 15 additional ones. That was on Sunday. Today is Tuesday, and that number is up to 21 deaths. If you think about the people who are dying in Puerto Rico right now, indirectly to the pass of Fiona, well, 3 people died because they were using candles at night in humble houses made out of wood, and a fire killed them. 2 different fires. One person was connecting a power generator. You're using fuels, and there was an explosion, and that person died. You had another person who was using a power generator, and the missions, they killed that other person. So at least 5 out of those 21 people were related to power failures, can be linked to power failures right now, and this is going on. So still we are under 40%, 30% of the population still without power at this moment, even though the hurricane didn't compromise the transmission and distribution lines. It's incredible. But we're getting power back, and this is for you to see. This is in the metropolitan area, and now we're getting power. And this is something that you will see everywhere in Puerto Rico. The power utility was privatized. That was the way the government said that we were going to be better prepared after Hurricane Maria. And now the cost of power is higher, and more ineffective. You don't need a hurricane to experience a power outage in Puerto Rico. So this is the reality of an obsolete energy system that has failed Puerto Rico before, and that is failing Puerto Rico now, and that will fail in the future. So it's not about changing the energy reality of Puerto Rico because there's an opportunity that was created by the hurricane, and now that opportunity should be used to improve the system. No, it is a necessity. It is a necessity that we have to confront that reality and build something different for the well-being of Puerto Rico on normal days, and to be better prepared for events like hurricanes. It's true that Puerto Rico confronted a power outage, but not in Casa Pueblo, because we were producing energy at the point of consumption. And the day after the hurricane, we were able to reopen Casa Pueblo to provide help to the community. And we became an energy oasis. We became an energy oasis as people were going there to plug in their respiratory machine, to recharge equipment, because we were energy resilient. And this is something that happened. We decided to distribute solar lamps, and we asked people in the diaspora to send Casa Pueblo not money. We wanted solar lamps 5 years ago. And the idea was to help people to prevent fires or the elderly from falling when you don't have access to medical attention. But the other reason was to help educate people on how to yield solar power for a specific purpose. In this case, to light up adjuntas with the sun. So that helps a lot. And this is people going to Casa Pueblo days after. Now with Hurricane Fiona, we had solar lamps at home, so now we can launch a response much quicker. After distributing solar lamps, we decided to go upscale, and we set up like an urgency solar system for people that needed medical attention, that required like a small fridge for insulin and medication, and we did 10 houses. Because LA for Puerto Rico got organized in California, and they helped Casa Pueblo to do this project. And then after that initiative, we decided, well, why not doing houses to run their basic needs like Casa Pueblo is doing? And instead of Casa Pueblo being the only energy oasis of the community, let's have hundreds of them. And this is what we have been doing during the past 5 years. Even the barber is now running on solar power for economic activation, because you have to work and you have to earn your living. And the idea of giving energy freedom to the barber is also a mean for economic activation, to reduce the operational cost, and also to to do justice to the work that this person do to the community. He was working before a day and a half of his monthly labor was just to pay the energy bill. So he was working not as a slave, but he was working, and 1 day and a half was for the fossil fuel industry. Now he's producing power at his location, and even if there's a power outage, he can go back and work. And he can enjoy his work because he's producing the energy to do his work. Now we have powered the transmission tower of Radio Casa Pueblo. The Radio Casa Pueblo was running on solar power, but the transmission tower was not. And communication failures after Hurricane Maria was a big problem in Puerto Rico. Now we're generating energy at the point of consumption, and with Hurricane Fiona, we have the station running throughout the storm. But because the storm lasted 60 hours, and it was very cloudy, we needed to run a power generator as a backup system, but just for a few hours. Just for a few hours, we had redundancy. We recharged the batteries. We keep the radio station going, and the sun came back much quicker than Luma and the power authority. We have power critical infrastructure like the fire station, the emergency unit, the elderly home. We have done the elementary school. We have done grocery stores for food security in rural areas. These are the small stores that people will go and they will do fiaos. If you don't have money, they will give you the food and you can pay later. The business relationships and interactions are way different than in other locations. This is the elderly home that now can run and produce power for the operation. This is elementary school being solar panels for the comedor. Comedor is what, Rima? For the cafeteria, for the school cafeteria. This is La Lechonera Solar. It's a very traditional place. Now it's running on solar power. Prepared meals, the ability to have prepared meals. And this location was critical after the earthquakes of 2020 in Puerto Rico when we confronted another power outage. Having places that can produce their own power and do prepared meals is very critical. Also, after with the pandemic, we had another program. Now we have a solar cinema. Think about how cool is that? To have a solar cinema. Imagine after Hurricane Maria having the solar cinema, and a few days after, kids from the community that they can't go to school because we are in the middle of a crisis, going to a solar cinema to watch a movie and regain some normality within that crisis. So in this solar cinema, we have done our own films, like La Insurrección Energética. We have our own movie, and that movie tells people how we're doing what we're doing, and it teaches people how to do solar installations at home. So it's for education. And in our first anniversary of the solar cinema, we decided to present Free Solo with Alex Honnold. I don't know if you have seen this guy before, but he won an Oscar for the best documentary in 2019. So this is in 2019 on Earth Day, presenting his movie. I mean, it was a lot. We had to present the movie twice, but it was a complete failure. It was a disaster because, let me show you here, Alex Honnold is sitting in the middle of the cinema. And, you know, it was an end spoiler. We knew that he wasn't going to fail, that, you know, going up those rocks was an easy thing, and, you know, that was not a big deal. But the reason that Alex Honnold was in Adjuntas is because in 2019, we proposed Adjuntas Pueblo Solar to do downtown Adjuntas and build a microgrid for energy security. And Alex Honnold has the Alex Honnold Foundation, in which he's promoting solar installations everywhere. He contacted us. He decided, I want to help you. We want to help Casa Pueblo, Adjuntas, and the community to build energy security. And this is what we proposed in 2019, to build this microgrid. You need social organization. This is not something that happens because you have the buildings. The engineering part is relatively easy. Getting people together with common understanding on how to run the microgrid and the purpose, the objective, that's the difficult part. In 2019, we started with the organization. The social organization is Asociación Comunitaria de Energía Solar Adjunteña. Accesa is the name of it's sort of like an NGO of the business owners that will benefit from this installation. We told them, we're going to do it, but it's a microgrid. This is not an independent installation. It's a collective installation. And with the Alex Honnold Foundation, we're going to do the microgrid But you're gonna have to pay for the energy. You were paying energy to the private utility. Now you're getting resilient power for your business. So pay for the energy, and they're gonna pay the money, but to themselves, not to the fossil fuels. They're gonna pay the energy bill to themselves, and that money is gonna be used for operation and maintenance. Part of that money will be used for an emergency fund if something happens, to be able to respond and repair anything. But most of the wealth that will be generated by this microgrid will be used for social reinvestment. It will be money that will be used to help low-income families also reach energy security. So it's to drive the transformation from within by using energy for the benefit of not of the external economy of the fossil fuels, but for the benefit of the local people, local development. Searching for means for sustainable development is effective. It is a good alternative. And we started building in 2020. And with the construction in 2020, we have installed over 700 solar panels for those microgrids. And the solar installation, the generation component, was completed last year. So now those businesses, they do have energy generation at the point of consumption. 3 out of 6 installers were females. Ada, Ramona, Eva, and Nicole. What we are missing is the installation of a 1 megawatt battery unit that will give the whole microgrid complete independence. And this is in the making. But we're going through the consequences of global supply chain limitations, and there's some parts that needs to be built specifically for the microgrid, for this microgrid, and as soon as those parts are available, they're delayed, we will be able to install the energy storage unit, and that central part of Adjuntas will be completely self-sufficient. I have to say that beside the immediate impact on the community and the goals that we have with the microgrid, learning and gaining knowledge is very important. So a few years ago, a team from Oak Ridge National Lab, they contacted us because they saw in Adjuntas and the project a unique opportunity to learn from the microgrids, because it's actually 2 microgrids, to develop more intelligent technology that can improve microgrid interaction and effectiveness. So Adjuntas is one of 10 study sites that were designated at that time. So what is happening in Adjuntas, that bottom-up process of building an alternative energy setup is impacting the Department of Energy, and will gain knowledge that will be benefiting other people elsewhere with better technology in the future. And this is downtown Adjuntas from above. We wanted to transform the energy landscape of Adjuntas. And here is Casa Pueblo. This is the downtown, the Adjuntas Pueblo Solar. This is what we call cucubanos, casas solares, solar houses. This is the barber shop, the fire station, the elderly house, but you can see a lot of yellow installations, and those are people who are doing their installation by themselves. There's a new company in Adjuntas that has retrained 6 people. Now it's creating jobs because you have to do the installation, the maintenance. So it's promoting economic development again at the local level. It's an alternative model for local development, and it's happening. Most of our installations you don't see it because are in the rural parts of Adjuntas, But in downtown Adjuntas, we can claim that we have moved forward with alternative. And this is even the food truck is running on solar power. At some point, we got tired of setting solar panels on rooftops, so we decided we were given this space, and we told them, well, let's build a solar forest. And the solar forest is sculptures that will have solar panels instead of as branches, and they will become like functional pieces of art. And this is our solar forest right now. It's an abandoned lot that was transformed. You have the forest. You can see these are the traditional electrical poles, and they're tilted because that's how the electrical grid is in Puerto Rico, is tilted. And you can see the solar panels taking over as the future. We're generating power in here. There's some bench that have electrical outlet, and you can go and plug your computer, you can recharge your cell phone, and we can provide power to this house for medical equipment or to nearby houses for other needs. So this is how we get the art, science, culture, and community. This is how it's being played, and this is a location in which we can show people how to do solar panels. Now we're thinking about doing this whole community fully solar. It's a low-income region, one of the most traditional, oldest locations in Adjuntas. We are already in the transformation phase. If I get invited next year, this photograph will look very different. So we have been marching for the sun. We protest mining. We protested the natural gas pipeline, but this was the Marcha del Sí, where we're marching for the sun, for an alternative future. And this is what we have been building by embracing our own culture and building up the alternative. So we are very proud of what is happening in Adjuntas, and what we have been doing is basically redefining what resilience is. In Puerto Rico, the term of resilience is sort of like is getting a negative connotation because the government is abusing the use of that terminology as a way to transfer the government the responsibility upon the people. And all of the suffering after Maria and now after Fiona is like, oh no, it's because you are not resilient, because you were not prepared. So what we're saying is that resilience is not individual survival. What we're doing in Adjuntas is that the community strength of dealing with critical infrastructure, with people that need medical attention at home and requires energy security, by addressing the issue of economic activation, food security, entertainment, communication. That's how you make resilience. That's how you move forward, by building resilience for the community. And you can test that. And we were tested last week when Hurricane Fiona went through Puerto Rico. And this is one of the Cubanos, one of these houses that we have installed. This is in the middle of the storm, September 19. And you can see that you're going to see how energy storage, production, and consumption in this house. So the energy production was very reduced because it was very cloudy. Energy storage was providing power to the house. The grid was not providing anything. So in the middle of the storm in that house and this other house that we can remotely access, energy production, the same thing. The battery was in a better position, just marginal solar generation and consumption. So when the country was in the middle of a blackout, those houses that has families with chronic diseases, they had power for the basic operation of their house. And yes, the battery at some point got depleted, but the sun came out before the power authority have reached this location. Still, there's a power outage in these areas in Puerto Rico. We even got this message from one of the installations, like in the middle of the storm, her daughter was able to get the dialysis therapy. And this is sort of like a validation that an alternative future is really at reach, that we can do something if we want to transform that reality. And actually this tweet or Facebook post got to the Time magazine. So I don't know how, but we're happy to see it. That's how social media works. But things can be done differently. This time, instead of waiting for the diaspora to send us solar lamps, we have 2,000 units. We were ready to launch a response after Hurricane Maria to help people that went to Adjuntas to get their own solar lamps. This is the solar cinema that we had the intention of having filmed for the kids. Well, we had a few showing up on regular basis to Casa Pueblo to watch a film. So we were much better prepared this time. And I think that has validated this is the solar forest, the energy oasis, and students coming to plug in their equipment. Now we had people plugging in Casa Pueblo, not for medical purpose, but because they are doing remote work and to keep their job. They needed communication and power, and they went and used Casa Pueblo as an energy oasis. I mean, we can do things much differently. This is last week on CBS Morning, using Casa Pueblo as a signal of the opposite of the government. The media attention is concentrated on the failures, on everything that bad that happened to Puerto Rico during the storm and after the storm. But at least we feel proud and happy and satisfied that we are used for the opposite, that we can show the path for a different future. Can we challenge the problem with alternative? Or are we going to delegate for top down? Are we going to wait for that to happen? We must challenge the problem with alternative. This is what we're doing. The answer is yes. We can challenge that with alternative, and we can engage with bottom-up processes. When the government is not doing their part, we can push forward and build energy democracy on our own. And last week, we also showed a new symbol for the energy insurrection. This is the way we call it, because it's happening bottom-up, because it's not public policy to actually do this for the benefit of the country, and it has to be done by the communities and the people, because the public utility was privatized, and in order to do profit, they need you to consume power, not to produce your own energy. So there's a huge contradiction of what should be the energy future of Puerto Rico with the way the public and private utility had been set up. So this flag was designed by a local artist in Adjuntas, and we raised that on the 5th anniversary of Hurricane Maria. In Utah, or Las Vegas, we have Alex Honnold raising the same flag as a symbol of solidarity and commitment with Adjuntas and with Puerto Rico. In New York, the people who are fighting for climate justice, they're also raising the flag of the energy insurrection. And yesterday, we had it here at your university. So I want to call President Jose Luis Cruz Rivera, because I want to give you the flag of the energy insurrection. I want to thank the technicians. I want to thank Taylor, Brian, the people that made it, my visit to Arizona possible. And I want to thank all the staff and Rima Brusi and Jose Luis Cruz Rivera for the opportunity to share what we have been doing in Adjuntas. And of course, I brought him Café Madre Isla. If you want to support Casa Pueblo, you can get Café Madre Isla online. That's a way to practice solidarity. You will get the best coffee at Flagstaff, and you will be helping the community to keep moving forward with the energy insurrection. Thank you. Do we have? Yes, okay.
You want me to project? Can people hear me? Okay. Okay, so first of all, gracias por venir por aquí. Product of University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez. I'm so proud to see somebody presenting in front of our audience here. 2 questions. First of all, I think a lot of people may not realize where Adjuntas is and just how impressive it is what you all are doing, right? It's not anywhere close to where San Juan is or the major capital and anything like that. But that leads me to a question of how do you see this happening in places like a mega city like San Juan that has so much more, it's overpopulated, has so much more usage, and have you started having that conversation, and how could that transfer to other places, right? Mm-hmm. And then the second question is, what would you tell people here today that when they walk out of here, they don't have that tie personally to Puerto Rico like I do, or the president and his wife, right? Where I have to call my mom every day and be like, do you have power today? What's happening? What would you tell them to be thinking about and walk away from here today with?
Well, what we have been doing in Adjuntas, without federal funding, without government support, all community-driven solidarity from many places and actors like the contribution of Alex Hono and others, I think is unique. I think as we have been addressing different needs within the community, we have become a reference of what can be done in Jayuya, Utuado, Las Marias, nearby municipalities. That can be replicated. We're fighting for energy independence. That's what we're looking for. That Puerto Rico to fulfill all the energy needs with local resources, with endogenous resources, and that can be done. Researchers, engineers at the University of Puerto Rico have already evaluated that question. And they have stated that by using like half of the roof surfaces of all the buildings and structures that we have already in Puerto Rico, we can produce more than 100% of the energy demand of Puerto Rico. So we don't have oil, but we have plenty of opportunities to yield electricity from the sun with already built structures. In the case of locations with higher energy demands, that's where the microgrid setup come in place. The bakery of that infrastructure, the rooftop, it was too small to fulfill the energy demand of that location. But when you had the bakery and had the warehouse nearby with a big roof, with that we were able to complement and balance all the consumption with energy generation. In areas like the metropolitan areas, you will have to do that, to use the rooftops, and you will need like a microgrid mentality and setup. But we can, the point that we're making at this right now is that we should yield as much electricity as possible from the sun to have people actively engage in the energy infrastructure, and whatever is left, That's the public or private electrical utility that we need. Right now is a public utility defining the country, failing the country, creating consequences all the time, not being prepared, failing, costing the life of many every time that we have a storm. We can't keep that going. We have to redefine that utility in the future. With regard to you, hopefully you will see the interconnection of the problems. You're facing similar situations. You're going to have to confront bottom-up processes as well to build resilience in your own communities. It's also important for you to recognize the political relationship of Puerto Rico and the moral obligation that the U.S. has with Puerto Rico. The U.S. Navy invaded Puerto Rico in 1898. Now you have to deal with that situation. We have to build energy self-sufficiency. We had Nancy Pelosi coming to Casa Pueblo in 2018. We just wrote another letter, like what had happened in 4 years related to this, nothing. But we told her that we need to decolonize Puerto Rico. And it's not just a discussion on how to decolonize Puerto Rico. It has to be done with actions. And one opportunity that we have right now is building energy self-sufficiency, energy independence for Puerto Rico, to put the island in a better position to make a final decision. If we want to become a state, we will be in a better position. Hawaii is building energy independence. California is doing the same thing. I think Arizona and others are also have similar goals. If we want to become a republic, then we will be in a better position to make that happen. So I think for you guys, I will say bye Café Madre Isla, understand what is going on, support Casa Pueblo. We're building solidarity everywhere, and we're counting now on you as well. You're welcome.
Okay. Hello. I really enjoyed your presentation. Thank you so much for speaking to us today. My question is related to community resilience as well. You had some really powerful examples of building community strength. Could you give more details on strategies you use to build up that community so you could be more resilient?
More details? It's an important question. That knowledge is not lost, that can be shared in a format that other people can benefit. It's not like we have a strategic plan before and this is what we have been building. It has been very organic and we have been very adapted throughout the path. But what I can tell you is that I'm not you're an ethnographer? No. Anthropologist. I'm a biologist. I'm the biologist of the group, so I'm not the engineer or anything related. But I just wrote a book, Energy Democracy, that is actually shares our experience at different levels and why we have been doing this and how we have been doing that. That book is being translated to English at the University of Notre Dame, and we hopefully will be out soon, and I will be able to answer that question in a better way. You will be able to read it if you want.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Shannon, and I'm growing up in the United States and an Arizona native. One of the 5 C's for Arizona is copper mining, and it's a huge economic driver. While we are not a island of 100 miles wide, you can watch a hurricane on TV, but until you go see it, it really impacts you. In 2021, I went to Puerto Rico in January, and I have to say, I think your greatest thing that Puerto Rico has are the people. They work together, they come together, they're humble, they're kind. You talk about strengthening the relationship with the United States. they fly the American flag. They wear the American flag. They are true partners. In your slideshow, you showed the first protest was one person, and you got thousands to follow you. So I have two questions. How did you help educate the people of Puerto Rico and the government, which is hard, to support sustainability and not the economic development of mining with all the promise that big companies offered? You know, to think about protecting from like Humacao, Narito, Isabella, Catano down south, your rainforest. I mean, that's a big push to not just get what big companies are asking. And then my second question, you talked about the 1 megawatt battery to back up the microgrid. What will the impact be? Like, how many Puerto Ricans would that affect?
Well, that one is for the microgrid that we're building. It will give energy storage capacity for the pharmacy, for the pizza place, the bakery, and the 13, 15 different stores to operate as an island if they need it with solar power. So it's for that specific application. With regard to the mining and the challenge and how we convince that it was through education, but that's when the culture came out. We had a concert being set up, and it was through music and people singing and projecting images and people dancing that we sort of had people engage. And through culture, I think the message went through more effectively. That was combined with other strategies, and at some point people realized the value of sustaining the way of living, water security, and at some point the government was not like the decision makers wanted to do it to stop mining from happening and changing the policy. It was because from being a minority we became a majority at some point. and this is how we did it. The same thing is happening with the solar installations. Is the decision makers, the government, they know the answers. They know that this technology works. They know that it's a better setup that improves the resilience of the electrical grid of Puerto Rico. They do know, but they don't do it. So everything we're doing, if you think, we're not reaching out to the decision makers. They know. What we are doing is educating people, making people get organized, and then creating what we call La Marcha del Sol through participation. And we are no longer a minority with solar installations like in 1999. We are already a new consensus in Puerto Rico, and that is putting a lot of pressure on the politicians in Puerto Rico. Still, it's a huge challenge because there's a lot of money that will be allocated to Puerto Rico for the electrical grid, and that's an ongoing battle, how those resources will be used to rewire everything and give resilience to the electrical grid, centralized fossil fuel base. That will be like giving resilience to colonialism. We don't want to give colonialism and resilience, and we don't want to give the fossil fuel setup this resilience either, to perpetuate the same setup. So that's the battle that is happening right now, and people are pushing for the alternative. And what we have seen, for example, at intermediate levels in the Department of Energy and other agencies, and even some U.S. Congress people, is a change in mentality. Some people want to make Puerto Rico a hub of natural gas for the Caribbean, and other people are thinking in building the right path to reduce our ecological footprint and do the responsible way to produce energy. So that's happening right now.
Hi, my name is Nora Timmerman, and I'm a faculty member in the Sustainable Communities program here on campus. And I'm also a faculty advisor for a lot of students on campus that are working for fossil fuel divestment at NAU and also in the larger state of Arizona. I want to just also say thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for sharing that and presenting examples of what building resilience can really look like in communities. It's wonderful to see that work. The question I have for you is about the relationship that you see between fossil fuel divestment and energy democracy. What do you feel like that relationship is? And as you've talked about battling the fossil fuel industry and battling colonialism, how do you feel that fossil fuel divestment is part of your battle or not? So what's the relationship, and is that part of your strategy?
Well, if you want to support Casa Pueblo in Puerto Rico, one way to do is to support initiatives like that are happening here, that are confronting investments in fossil fuel in everywhere. But doing that, it's not going to guarantee energy democracy. And I can give you like a specific example. In Puerto Rico, the Power Authority, what they're planning is to do solar farms and have solar farms to start substituting some of these natural gas or coal power plants. But it will be the same relationship. It will be generated in one point. It will be vulnerable to transmission and distribution. People will be consumers of clean energy instead of fossil fuel generated energy, but it will be the same power relationship. If you want energy democracy, you have to conceptualize that people, as many as possible, to participate in the equation to produce energy and to also benefit from the wealth that is associated to energy generation. So the investment is not enough. It's a good step forward to confront that reality, that power, but energy democracy needs additional steps. This is the way we think can be done and adapted to adjuntas and our community. Perhaps in other communities it will be a different solution. So it's not about imposing one single solution. It's about having a multiplicity of options, and I think we have them all over the table. So if you want to go to Puerto Rico, you're invited. Hopefully you will, if you go, please go and visit Adjuntas and Casa Pueblo. You will be more than welcome. We're very proud, very honored that Jose Luis Cruz is leading this university, and hopefully further exchanges with our community, with our university will be promoted. So thank you and have a good night.